Hi, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my weekly gear talks where I'm going to talk about my user experience of using film cameras and digital cameras and all kinds of cameras. So today, I'm going to talk about the Leica IIIf. Now the Leica series that were preceding the Leica M series, I find all of them to be wonderful cameras. The IIIf added flash contacts, but you could use the 3C, which didn't have the flash synchronization. I don't typically use a Leica for a camera with flash. I don't think I've ever used a flash on a Leica. But the beauty of the Leica 3, unlike the Leica M, which I talked about last week, the Leica 3 is less expensive and it's smaller. And what's really nice about it is it fits in my front jeans pocket, which the Leica M with an f2 lens doesn't do. Now the lens is slower, it's an f3.5 lens. And you still have to extend it before you can use it, but you can retract it into the body, and when it does, it's so small. To me, this is the camera that you get to replace your phone. This is the camera that you keep with you, and this is the camera that goes into addition to any other camera you take. So usually I'll take a digital body over my shoulder or a film camera over my shoulder, and then this is in my pocket. And usually I won't take a 50 if I'm going outside, say, because I have a 50 on here. And then I'll take another camera with a 35 or a 28. I tend to lean toward wide angle. So if you see the difference between a Leica M3 and this is smaller. And this will not fit in my jeans pocket, but this will. So this is probably 3 times the cost of this. And this has the same build quality. This is beautifully built. It's a bottom loader. You have to cut the leader a little bit longer than is standard on 35mm rolls of film. That's not a big deal. People make it into a big deal. It's not. It takes a couple of seconds to cut the leader. It makes it easy to load. This is like a little jewel, I think, that holds 35mm film that's almost the same size as what a 35mm roll of film is. And this has legacy. This is what Alfred Eisenstadt used. This is what Henri Cartier-Bresson used, or Henri Cartier-Bresson. And this is that kind of a camera. Now, is the viewfinder as big as the Leica M? No. Does it have different frame lines? No. It just has a 50mm frame lines. But this is going into my pocket with the 50mm lens. This isn't the kind of camera that I change lenses on. I want one lens, and it's one that's small and short, that collapses into the body and works and doesn't have any issue with accessory viewfinders. I'm not going to put a 35 viewfinder or a 28 viewfinder on here and switch it out. There was a Voigtlander 25mm. It's called their snapshot lens. It's a 25 f4 lens, and it comes with a little viewfinder. And that makes this camera into a super wide angle lens, which I love wide angles, but I don't think this camera is the wide angle camera for me. This camera isn't the camera that I take out to shoot wide angle. Wide angle for me is the one that I use where this is the camera that I use that I can put in my pocket, and the wide angle camera goes on my shoulder. And so if you're looking for a camera that you can say, I'm going to keep a camera with me all the time, but I don't want to always carry it over my shoulder, this will weigh you down, and you will notice it. If you walk with it for a few miles, you'll notice it. This, if you have it in your pocket, for me, I don't notice it. And again, it collapses so small. To me, this is the benefit for small pocketable. Now, where do you lose? You lose because you have a small viewfinder. And it's got two viewfinders. The left one is a magnified viewfinder that you can use to select your focus with the rangefinder. And then after you're done that, you move your eye over to the right side of the viewfinder and then you use that for framing. That might slow you down a little bit. Or you might get to know where the positions are on the focus tab. This is 3 or 4 feet. This is 10 feet. This is infinity. You might get to know that if you use it a lot. And then you might still check with the viewfinder to just double check your focus. Because like I said before, if I'm using a Leica, I want to have precise focus. That's why I bought Leica lenses and Leica cameras, is because I want the best lenses in the world. I don't want to misfocus them. But the lens viewfinder is also kind of squinty. And it's certainly a much smaller view than the Leica M. The Leica M3 has the best viewfinder in the world. And many people have said that, and I agree, if you don't wear glasses and you're right-eyed. But this lens may be squinty, but when I look through it with a pair of glasses on, and I know not to push it all the way up against my glasses so I don't scratch them, I can see the whole finder. Is it big? No. But I can see it. So in some sense, I find this to be better and more usable than the Leica M with glasses on, because if I take this out, I don't have to worry about putting my glasses up. I can see the whole finder in here. And that makes it, for me, much more usable. So this, I would highly recommend for people who want to keep they're a stealth person. They want to keep a camera with them, but they want to be stealth. I remember going to a flea market in New Jersey at the Golden Nugget, a beautiful, wonderful flea market. I hope they're doing okay, in Lambertville, New Jersey. And everybody I would meet, if I was talking to different vendors, they were always like interesting characters. After we talked, if I spent a few minutes talking to somebody, I'd say, oh, let me get a picture before I go. And then I would pull this out. And every time I reached into my pocket, they were thinking I was pulling out a phone. And I wasn't. I was pulling out this. And then they were completely enamored. They're like, look at that. What is that? Well, that's a little Leica jewel. And it's a conversation piece. You can put it on your table at the coffee shop while you're writing, and you can get people to come over to you because they want to talk about it. That's what this camera is great for. It gives you a lot of the advantages of the larger Leica M at a much lower price. And then when you're all done, pop it in your pocket. And it fits in your front jeans pocket, and it's easy. So for me, I think that it's a super winner of a camera. And I don't have a 3G. That was the last one in the series. And they actually improved the viewfinder and made a larger viewfinder on the 3G. But the 3G goes for about 2 to 3 times the price of the 3F. And when I looked at one at a camera store once, I wasn't impressed with the viewfinder as, oh my God, look at how wonderful. It was bigger, but it wasn't as big as the Leica M. And it wasn't so incredible that I was going, oh my God, I wish I had a 3G. I didn't. So I would say look for a 3A or a 3C or a 3G or a 3F. I would let the 3G go because they're more expensive. But the 3F, there are a lot of them out there. Get one in good shape. They're not expensive. If they need a repair, they need to be clean, lubed, and adjusted. And I think it's a little jewel of a camera. And one you can take everywhere and keep with you and have something that you can really shoot anywhere. Even if you have to push your film to 1600, if you have HP5 or Tri-X in here, you can shoot indoors with a 3.5 lens. So the collapsible lens is a 53.5 classic lens, but you could shoot with it in low light if you have to. Just push your film. Get that wonderful grain that film is good for, especially in black and white. All right, that's today's photography talk. I welcome your comments. Do you use them? Have you used it? Are my experiences the same as yours? Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back next week. We'll talk more gear. If you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. If you can support, anything helps. Please do hit the Patreon, and I'll be back next week. We'll talk photography. As always, hey, here's to good light.